Hi, everyone. So in this session today, we're going to talk about data quality, as you all are well aware. I'll just give you a bit of an overview of the session, so you know what you're getting into. So we're going to start the session hearing from WHO, and she's going to give us a little bit of an overview of the WHO data quality framework. They've recently released some new guidelines and guidance, and I think it's a good framing for the session overall. We're then going to introduce some tools. So you'll hear from myself, Jason, and Olaf from HISP WCA. We'll talk about this data quality toolkit we've been working on. Had a lot of support from our partner in Global Fund, and we've had a lot of input from WHO and the team there as well. And I'll just discuss some of the metrics and measurements there that are available, along with my colleagues Jason and Olaf. We'll also hear about a DQ supervisory tool as well, which looks at supervisory support at the facility level. We'll hear from Gabriel from HISP WCA. West Africa on the development of that tool and how some of the functionality works. And then we'll hear about the implementation of some of these tools that we've been developing, a bit more theoretically, let's say, from both Ghana, who has implemented the toolkit and is working on that actively, and Cote d'Ivoire, from our colleague Olade, who's helping with the implementation of the supervisory support there. So there's a lot of different information in this session. Hopefully we can get through it. We'll have some time for questions as well. But to start us off, I'll ask An to come up and give us a bit of framing using the data quality framework.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Good afternoon, colleagues and friends. It's very nice to be back here. And my name is An and I'm coordinating for the work on the health information system strengthening with special attention on the facility-based routine health information systems, of which the data quality had been one of the key components of it. But I also work across different with the vision to support the implementations of the DHIS2 that applying the routine health information system toolkits that in WHO we work across different programs. And on top of that, somebody from the ministries in the country might also heard of the SCORE assessment, which is the overall framework for health information system that we're currently doing for assessment of the capacity of the health information system in countries. So today I'm just focusing on the data quality. I always remember when I first looking into the health information system, and one of the main reasons that all the Ministry of Health and the facilities said to me was, we don't use data because it's not good quality enough. And I don't think it hasn't changed. It doesn't matter, unfortunately. So if we don't use it, we will never know how good it is. Let's put it that way. Nowadays, with all the evolutions of data, with the AI, with the large language models, with the capacity of cross-analysis across different data sources, of the use of different data, and nowadays data is not just a digital data. Nowadays come in all different shapes and sizes and forms. So how are we important with this? And I think it's even more important that how are we going to ensure that the data we use are trusted. I think we just had a quick conversation with this with some other colleagues now with the AI. It's the typical example of rubbish in, rubbish out. If we have one or few bad data points into something that can multiply and paint it in different colors and different versions, and the data quality is getting even more important. So in WHO, what we have done in the past 6 years, we have developed different modules on data quality. Started with the data quality review, which many countries have used it, and with the support from partners, and one of the key partners have supported it in many years, which is the Global Fund. And Olaf, with the DHIS2 team, has managed to make it into an app, simplify a very complex process, an expensive process, into something that countries that use DHIS can adapt it and can build it into something called data quality review. But then after that, what happened? What happened was we identified all the problems and then we ran out of money to improve it. And another issue that's very common that came up with several countries that have applied and used the data quality review was that it's not actually what happened in the facility. A lot of it is on the system part, on the foundation of the system. So we're not looking into somebody copy from paper into the computer. It's the entire who's responsible for what, how we're going to trust the data. So I would like to introduce you as a shifting concept from data quality into data that we can trust and use regardless of where it comes from. And then the score assessment, we did the first round 5 years ago, and we talked about lots of different ways of how country does the data quality. Very few countries actually know that only half of the facility submitted the data. So issue number one of completeness. And then secondly, a lot of private sector also don't submit the data, and very few countries actually have a regulations about who is responsible and accountable for data quality. So with that, we started to evolve further and have the routine data quality implementation plans, bringing in more concepts, bringing down also the data at the facility and at the community level, having a system assessment, which is part of the formerly known as SARA, and then it's the health facility assessment. But all of that is still not enough because we're only scratching the surface and we didn't touch on the bottom. But so we had a meeting 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, across all different partners and see what we can do about this. Clearly, it's having data there and the review is not enough. We need to put together and make data quality as something cross-cutting. We need to put together so that all the data quality for malaria should be used for other program data quality for MCH, and the tool itself should be able to bring data from different programs, different way of data collection together. And we bring it as a part of the data life cycles. We should not only look at the data when we see the report. It should be considered when we design, when we think of the indicator of the data element, the definition of it, how we're going to adapt it and build it in the data collection tools. And I think DHIS has been quite ahead of that when we look at all the values, all the max and means, and all the validation rules that we're building. Still, we build it in, it doesn't mean that it's implemented. I've seen all the implementation rules are built in DHIS, and the approvers will take it, and then we got a very bad data value or accuracy at the end of the reporting point. So come with that is the entire cycle and the data governance, the regulations for the data. So we see it as a holistic view from the reporting point of view, but that also means we also need to look at data from other sources. When we don't want to do the consistency between survey data and routine data, do we trust that survey data? So who is going to trust? So we need to understand that every data point we look at and comparing for consistencies, for accuracy, we need to trust that data source. So we reach it out into something that is part of now the data quality assurance framework, and we bring it in the UN data quality dimensions, which was agreed and signed by all the countries, part of the UN, 190 something of them, by the statistic office of all the quality and the dimensions of the data quality. So this is something that we're trying to look at it in a more holistic way, in a more complex way, but at the same time, what we wanted to build is to build the trust of the data and have everybody who deal with data, regardless of how they collect the data and what type of data, we should be able to say we have ticked these boxes that we can trust the data quality. For health systems, the same. We have a lot of data now in where I work. Our colleagues, they do the health statistic reports, they do the UHC index, which it combine a lot of data and on the estimates. How can we got the right estimates if we use a bad quality data for the estimates? So all of this is something that shifting the view from the usual data quality review, the usual data check at the facility into something more complex and would require everybody's hands on board. And that's what my ask here, because at the moment we have a lot of work on data quality for the routing, but we will need a lot more work on to see how other data source can be done. And now with the climate app and the chaps and all of that, how we're going to bring all of that effort together. I will stop here. This is a few key aim and I will pass it on for Nick for the next part of the session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mom, for that. I think it's a good framing of the session and the tools that we'll be talking about. So start here. So what I want to do now is talk a little bit about the data quality toolkit. Now, this might be familiar to some of you. We have been updating it though quite a bit. We've added a lot, even in the last 6 months, I would say. And we've tested it in a couple more places as well. And then you'll hear about this again. So we'll talk about it a little bit here. Tomorrow, we are also having a more detailed session on the tools that both myself and Yero will present, as we'll have a little bit more time to get hands-on with these tools. Okay, so just quickly, what's included in this data quality toolkit? So we have guidance on the various metrics. I'll mention them quickly now. I won't be able to explain them all just due to time constraints, but you'll get a chance for this. These are all links. So once this presentation is available to you, you can follow them. We have a demo instance that's set up that's showcasing all of this functionality. I think beyond that, we've tried this now in a couple of places as well. We've revised our demo instances based on this. So it's not just a demo in the sense where we're trying things out. We have actually implemented some of this in some locations. We have a full set of training material on this, both on the use of these metrics, how to kind of use DHIS2 to pull them out, analyze these various parameters, and also follow up on them, as well as the configuration side of the setting up this toolkit inside of DHIS2. And then we have a number of supplementary tools that are developed either as apps or other tools outside of DHIS2 that can help you with some of this as well. There are tools for monitoring that Jason will actually talk about in a moment. We have some tools to assist you with the configuration, also an application for the annual report, and then the supervision app, which we'll hear about from HISP WCA. So here is the listing of all the different metrics and measurements we cover in the data quality toolkit. There's quite a bit. I'm not going to go through all of them now, but just to make you aware that there's a lot of work on these different metrics. I have a link here, the link text in pink there, that describes each of these metrics in quite a bit of detail, how they're calculated, what's the source of those various items within them. A lot of these are new. Some of them are existing from before, though we have added quite a few new ones in recent memory as well. So some of the new ones are data element completeness, facilities consistently reporting. We have a number of new visualizations that support consistency analysis. There's a lot of new functionality around outliers, and then we have a whole new set of guidance on denominators as well. That is fairly new. So these are all available and you can have a look at them, and then there's the resource you can have a look at as well. We will go over some of these metrics tomorrow in more detail as well. If you want to understand how they're calculated, how you can use them inside DHIS2, I can follow up on them and check them as well. So here's just some examples of some of these outputs. I'll just highlight them quickly. One is data element completeness. This is maybe different than the way we used to look at completeness before. So before, when you're looking at completeness, you might be looking at the completeness of an entire data set, right? So let's say an aggregate data set, you have your malaria data or your immunization data. You have a person, they click on the complete button, and that's calculated as complete. But you don't actually know which variables within that data set are completed, have data, right? So this metric for data element completeness goes further down than that data set completeness, and it's looking at the individual variables. So rather than saying my entire immunization data set is complete, it's actually checking does my BCG doses variable have a value? Does my stock data have a value, etc. Okay, so it's going down that extra level further to make sure that you have data where you expect it to be. Here's another example, just a quick example showing some changes over time, right? Of course, these big either rises or valleys, values below are quite easy for people to identify when you put this on a dashboard. If there's a data entry error, it's pretty obvious to see, and then they can go fix that subsequently by investigating this a little further. We've done a lot of work on outlier identification as well. So in this example here, we're just pulling out kind of the largest outliers and placing them on a person's dashboard. This way that the person can just basically identify, okay, here are my outliers for the last 3 months. I need to investigate these. I need to figure out what happened. Here, in this case, we have provinces. You can drill down to find a specific facility and figure out what's going on. We also have a new functionality that's been introduced in recent DHIS2 versions called the outlier table. This table helps you to produce some outlier analysis directly inside of Data Visualizer. It's advantageous because it allows you to use the median, which is a different way of looking at the outliers compared to what we see in some of our other outlier analysis. And it just kind of pulls out those values the same way that I showed previously with a little bit more steps. And you can find out which outliers are kind of causing you challenges and issues. So there's a lot of other metrics, measurements, and visualizations included as part of the toolkit. And if you are interested in learning more about that, getting some hands-on time, you can attend our session tomorrow, where we'll talk about that. But we'll also hear from Jason, who's going to expand upon this a bit, and Oswald, where we've done some actual implementation work in Ghana. So just real quickly, we do have an application. We're not going to talk a lot about the configuration now, but we do have an application that can help you set all this up. Unfortunately, the configuration is a little bit heavy, but just to make sure that people know what's going on under the hood, there is some steps that help you do this. The main advantage, of course, is that you can get all these metrics on your dashboard. So I'm going to ask my colleague Jason to come up, and he's going to continue a bit with the discussion.
Can you hear me? Okay, so I'm going to talk very briefly about sort of what we've termed validation rule and outlier monitoring. I think all of you know, or hopefully have seen the validation rule and outlier analysis that's available through the Data Quality app. Part of the problem with that, though, is that it only gives you a snapshot of what is the current state of the system. It doesn't tell you what was the state a couple of weeks ago, or what was it like 6 months ago, right? So this is an attempt maybe to give particularly system administrators and data quality, those that are responsible for data quality, more insight into monitoring validation rules and outliers over time. Yeah, as I mentioned, the validation rule and outlier analysis has always been there. It hasn't always worked, unfortunately. We have recently fixed this. So for those who I know, Oswald's here, and we had big problems with this, with the Ghana database, because we knew that there were outliers there, but we couldn't find them. The reason that we couldn't find them is that there were, I guess, non-numeric data in the database, which prevented the outlier analysis from even being able to be run. We fixed that now, so that's yet another good reason to upgrade your version, or at least to the latest patch version of DHIS2. All of that should be possible, basically, to run outlier analysis. Yeah, so these analyses identify violations per individual data element, organization unit, and period. It's really meant primarily for staff at the kind of lower levels, right? At the district level. You're like looking at a relatively small number of facilities and a relatively small amount of, periods. You're not looking back over the past 12 months. Maybe you're only looking at your 12 facilities in your district for the past month, basically. Right now, but this is another change that we've also recently added or changed, is that you are limited to 500 violations. So anything more than that, then you get a sort of warning in the UI that says more than 500 violations have occurred. And that might work on the district level, but it definitely doesn't work on a big instance like Ghana, Nigeria, and particularly for countrywide analysis, you may be faced with thousands of violations, right? So we have added functionality now to allow you to increase the number of violations that are returned from the API. You won't see that in the app, but it is possible through the API, basically. And why we did that was to enable monitoring of these in bulk, basically, over time. All of this is really new. And I think we're still kind of experimenting, working very closely with the team from Ghana about how this looks. How can we bring these types of metrics back into DHIS2? This is an example we talked about in the previous session about metadata integrity. This is very much related. But basically, we have created approaches and developed scripts to allow you to run basically take a snapshot of your metadata integrity violations, your validation rule violations, your outlier validation, the number of outliers which you have in your system, and persist those as data values inside of DHIS2. And the idea with that is that we just want to sort of make it more visible. We want to make it more visible and put it on front of on their dashboard, very similar to what Shirjit showed in terms of showing people the outliers on their dashboard. So by creating a bit of metadata and hooking this up with some scripts, we can basically import the data, in this particular case, the number of data integrity violations over time. So we got a snapshot for December, January, February, and March. And the basic idea here is that you might want to monitor and track these over time. Are we getting worse? Are we getting better? We did an intervention to solve a particular problem, and we brought the number down to 0. But we imported a new data set. Now something else happened. So we've got additional problems that we need to resolve. We've created a set of scripts and a very simple user interface to enable administrators to get this set up on their system, basically. What's possible there is to do outliers, validation rules, and metadata integrity, and basically import those back into your system as a normal DHIS2 data value, basically. And then you can visualize that on your dashboard. And that really should increase visibility, I think, for all of these types of sort of very special metrics that are intended primarily for administrators of DHIS2. They might be appropriate for maybe the facility staff, but typically these would be metrics that are more of importance to supervisory staff, people that need to look at these in bulk. So this is sort of looking ahead. What about, just to say how we've done this, there is basically a set of Python apps and scripts that we've developed to do this. The data can be disaggregated at the same level as the data is entered, particularly for the validation rules and the outliers. You need to be able to see that data at a very granular level to be able to identify and fix it, basically. So the basic idea is that let's run the validation rules analysis in bulk through the API. We run the outlier analysis through the API, and we reduce all that back down into an aggregate data value, basically, and bring it back into the system. And after we have it in the system, we can simply use the native DHIS2 analytics to do whatever we want to with it and monitor. Are these going up and down? Are there particular districts that have particular problems? It can be distributed by geography. It might be a function of time. You might see more data quality problems at the beginning of the month when people start to enter data, and then they decrease as more and more eyeballs get on the data. just to show kind of an example of this specifically, you can see here that we've got another example here of validation rule violations. Looking back, over the past 6 months or so. I've sort of purposely redacted this, but on the left-hand column, you've got geography, and then across the columns, you have time. And basically, the script would produce these values every night, so they would be overwritten, essentially. So you can imagine, if you're working with a particular district, you would like to see these numbers slowly decrease to zero, right? As the quality of the data improves, you would expect that all of these numbers would go down, right? You don't want to see them persisting, but you can clearly see that, for certain cases, like December 2024, for whatever that district is at top, there's still 173 validation rule violations of some type, right? So you could then go back into the validation or the data quality app and see exactly where are those 173 problems. And again, sort of iteratively improve the quality of the data over time. So that's the basic idea that we're working on. This is all very new. Like I said, we're working very closely with the Ghana team right now, but stay tuned. We hope to be able to release this to the community very soon and hopefully include a lot more of this functionality in the core going forward. I'll skip over this summary slide and leave it to the next presenter.
Hello, can you hear me? Yes. Okay, thank you. So I would like to share with you a topic about the supervision apps tools in DHIS2. So this presentation will focus on the context of the supervision and the digitalization and the benefits of this. So talking about supervision or RDQA, DQR tools is a data quality access system that are available in different countries that help the Ministry of Health to supervise the whole system, the whole health information system, and also to analyze the data to get the accuracy, the consistency, and even get the consistency and need to get decision making. So talking about RDQA or data quality routine access systems, basically ordinarily these tools is in Excel sheets and then is stored or is used on the computer, especially Windows computers that are available to the health ministry. So this Excel sheet has some limitations. So for example, the file is stored most of the time in one computer. And so it brings lack of tracking is not possible is not possible for the ministry to get all those files or all those Excel sheets in one place. And also talking about limitation, some sites or some health facilities not allowed to get supervision over times because most of the time people prefer to go where the road or the road is good and where the accessibility is easier. As limitation is complicated to make a recommendation follow up because the Excel sheet is stored most of the time in one laptop, and then in the next supervision, those recommendations that were given in the previous supervision were not followed in the next supervision. So that also bring a bias in follow-up and decision making. And then another problem is the cross-check of analysis across different supervision. It's difficult to have all those supervision in one place and also making analysis across different supervision or different sites on the time. So then all these limitation or challenges bring the digitalization step. So in the digitalization step through DHIS2, we have two separate systems. First, the planification step. The planification step helps us to get first a calendar showing all the supervisions that are available or applied to the user that are connected, and also all the other supervision in the system according to the user account. And in the application, in the planification application, we have that possibility to make a plan or to plan a supervision based on the calendar. And also we have this possibility to assess or to settle supervisor and their teams that has to conduct the supervision on the field automatically in one click. And also that possibility to automatically set indicators, document source that need to cross-check on the field, and have that possibility based on the routine data or aggregate data that we have in the system to analyze indicators or to analyze those data. And based on the good or bad health facilities performance, we can plan our supervisions to say, let's go to visit 1 and 1 based on an objective criteria. And the second side or the second step is the supervision form designed in tracker program. So that allows the supervisor or the team to go on the field and get information about the whole supervision or to supervise the health facility or the level that are planned to supervise. So this tracker program allowed to analyze the whole system, the whole health system, and also to evaluate the data that are collected and getting the accuracy, the consistency of those data. So that's the overview of the calendar that we have on the planning or the planification application through DHIS2. So that calendar helps the user to know the number of supervision that are planned for him or for the whole system. So depending on the criteria that we apply, we can have the overview of the supervision that are planned in the system. And through the planification apps, so here we have the information about those indicators that are automatically selected based on the program that are going to conduct the supervision, and also based on some criteria, specific criteria that are useful for that time. It can change over times. Okay, so we have that possibility to settle those indicators, those forms that need to cross-check on the field, and automatically this information is going to push on the tracker side. The second thing, or the advantage that we have in that planification side, is that we have that possibility to select health facilities or the level that we are going to supervise based on specific criteria. It's not arbitrary, like someone just need to go to one health facility, but we have that possibility to do it randomly, but either do it based on indicators or like data quality indicators that are confirmed first in the system. And then we can use those indicators to bring out good or bad health facilities. So here we have the place that we configure. So tomorrow we can go deeper and see. So we can tell the system based on one criteria to tell the system we want 2 or 3 bad, or it depends on the policy and what we want to bring out. So we can select 2 best or 3 worst. So in the planification side, we have that possibility to settle automatically the team that are needed on the field, and then their calendar will be filled automatically and telling those users that you are planned to make a supervision based on the date. So here, once we select all those health facility or those levels, we have that possibility to set each date and then make automatically the form. So the second side that is the data entry is based on the tracker program, and is possible to change and to configure it based on the tools or the data quality, the RDQA tools that we have in each countries. So we have that possibility to enter the data via the web, or we have that possibility to use mobile phone. The mobile phone has that allowed us to go on the field, even if we don't have the internet and getting all the informations. So these tracker programs help us to collect information, and then we get that functionality to automatically calculate the score based on some criteria, and then we can automatically analyze those data and also get reports based on all the information that we collected. So that brings us to the analytics part. So this analytics part help us, especially on the mobile side, to get the report that show the performance or the accuracy that of the data, for example, for the health facility, for one health facility, and also we have that possibility to compare side by side health facility to another health facility. That bring the health system or the central level to make a decision. So the benefit of this digitalization is first the possibility of to have in real time the data that are collected during the supervision, and then this data or this report is available, one for the health facility itself and also for the central level, and also to cross-check those information. We have that possibility to select the level or the health facility based on specific criteria. And also we have that possibility to use the Android mobile that help us to conduct the supervision even if we don't have internet. And also as advantage, we can talk about the recommendation follow-up. That's very important. As the form is based on the tracker program, you have that possibility to get those recommendations that were given by the previous supervision, and then make a following and making making and make decision based on this recommendation following. So thank you for your attention, and yeah, to me.
Okay, thank you. My name is Oswald, we're with the Ghana Health Service. So in the past few months, what we have been doing is trying to get to visualize data quality in our national HMIs, working together with the HISP Center from UIO and also the local based team in Ghana. We have support from the Global Fund while we were planning for GC7 to be able to have some funding to leverage on in building in-house capacity and also strengthening our data quality activities. So somewhere in March, we were able to get a team from UIO to join us in Ghana. They spent about approximately 2 weeks with us. In the first week, what we basically did was to do an initial assessment of what data existed, both metadata-wise and also existing indicators on the system to see how ready we are to implement data quality metrics. Then we were able to set up a sandbox that allowed us to configure all these metadata metrics and get ready for an emerging in-house in-country capacity building dedicated for data quality. It was a 4 days data quality training that had different cadre of staff participating from our regional health information officers to key program M&E officers, as well as the DHIS2 country core team participating. And this was co-facilitated by the Ghana Health Service, HISP Ghana, and then the UIO team that were around. These are just highlights of what happened during the training. So it was an interactive session. Participants had the opportunity to try out the new metrics that were configured in the previous week during the training, and then also gave us some feedback on how we could improve and get it a lot more visual and interactive across the country. When it comes to the data quality tool itself, we were able to set up 6 core program areas. We looked at EPI, HIV, malaria, the MCA, that is maternal and child health, some clinical data for outpatient care, and also TB. And these were 6 areas where we think that we could focus on for the start. And in addition to the core matrices that already existed in the toolkit, the team also tried out 3 new matrices that we think that was also relevant when it comes to data quality, and that had to do with denominators. Then we looked at the outlier and validation rule monitoring, which Jason spoke about a while ago. And then what I like so much, the data quality index. Now, for denominators, what that allowed us to do was the issue of denominators is a big issue in Ghana because as a healthcare system, we use a lot of denominators, but it is the Ghana Statistical Service that is mandated to provide official population statistics for use. And you have what is projected from population census being used as denominators. And we try to do comparisons between what is estimated and actual children that is vaccinated, for example, for BCG, and then comparing that with live-based data and then infant deaths, and trying to establish the surviving infants. And you see huge disparities between the number of people who are vaccinated for BCG and the estimated surviving infants against what we estimated. And it gives insight into how we can further do a lot more work to be sure that we are getting the right indicators or denominators for measuring performance. And then, of course, the outlier and validation rule monitoring, which is an ongoing activity that we are having with Jason supporting us to make sure that we are able to get this to a level where countries can use to be able to improve their data quality. Then we also tested the data quality index, which gave us the opportunity to create that single value that can measure the overall data quality of your HMIS system. And we did this using the data element completeness and also the data element value excluding the outliers. And we computed that into an index. What that did was to allow us to be able to measure the quality index for each of these service areas or program areas that we have chosen, and also then be able to calculate an overall data quality index for a particular region. And this, because it was native, you are also then able to run it and disaggregated by the various regions and program types. And that gave us an opportunity to begin to visualize and let end users appreciate the level of quality of data that they have in the system. And for us, it was a key thing because that gives us opportunity to move from the traditional way of measuring data quality of looking at just data set completeness and then timeliness. And it is key for us as we move towards improving our data quality. When it comes to achievements, by the time we are done with the week session and conducted the training, we ended up with dashboards that enable us to begin not just visualize performance, but also to visualize the quality of data that is on the system by all these data indicators. And that became an opportunity to increase visibility when it comes to data quality issues. And that becomes the basis for measuring performance across the regions. And there was that immediate buy-in from participants, especially program leads who were there, who were in charge of their M&E activities at the program level. And that was a critical outcome for them, which will form the basis for developing data quality improvement plans and working towards improving the quality of data in our system. Thank you. So I will try to simply just show a few of those indicators and how we configure them on the system. Yes, so what we did also allowed us to then have something like this. We created all these indicators and put them into various indicator groups. So if you go into the data visualizer, you have indicator group that allows you to run data quality matrices for the various program areas. So you have an indicator group for each program area, and then we have the overall and the quality indicators that allow us to visualize the data quality index for each of the program areas. We have indicators for testing outliers and all that. And what I have on the screen on the dashboard is an output of such a visualization. Then we're able to create individualized dashboards for each of the program areas that allowed us to be able to show how each program area is performing when it comes to data quality on their system. And then one of the things that helped us was the fact that once we had this coming up from the live system, it was then possible to begin to tie performance to these things and be able to hold health information officers who are at the various levels and are directly in charge of ensuring that this data quality is improved, so that there is some level of accountability, not just at the manager's level, but also for our officers who are at the various levels that have responsibility to make sure that these things work. And for us, I think it was a very good thing that we got, and there is work currently ongoing to see how we can replicate this in September and then expand the scope of the training to include other divisions and ensure that this becomes institutionalized. And also riding on this as a foundation to then plan our data quality supervision, relying on the tool that HISP WCA have built for the rest of the country. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Uh, my name is Alade. I try to speak in French, but if I don't know the word, I speak in English. OK. Alors, au niveau, après avoir fini, after develop tools in the laboratory, now you are going to the field. So, I give you example of Côte d'Ivoire when you digitalize data quality tools and supervision tools. Oui. Alors, pour commencer, il faut dire que la supervision, on va définir un peu c'est pour la supervision. C'est un processus dans lequel on doit guider, on doit former les acteurs au niveau du terrain, sur le terrain. Donc, et cela pour vérifier la prise en compte des recommandations ou des procédures qui sont édictées. Alors, ça, c'est selon l'OMS. Donc, cela demande, n'est-ce pas, un gradient de connaissances et de compétences. C'est si vous partez superviser quelqu'un qui sait plus que vous, ce n'est pas ce que vous allez apporter. Une autre définition également pour le contrôle de qualité, c'est que c'est tous les processus qu'on va mettre en œuvre pour s'assurer que les données qu'on a sont bien collectées, sont bien renseignées, donc également sont utilisées ou sont complètes pour vraiment, et aussi arrivent à temps pour la prise de décision. Alors, dans notre contexte, lorsqu'on devait implémenter ce processus, la supervision telle que définie ou le contrôle qualité tel que défini sont pareils. Mais on se rend compte qu'il y a plusieurs outils. Donc, c'est le même processus, mais chaque programme donc, met en place un outil pour vérifier les données. Chaque programme met un outil pour faire sa supervision. Les partenaires aussi mettent des outils pour pouvoir réaliser la même activité de contrôle qualité et de supervision. Et cela à travers, comme notre collègue l'a dit, des fichiers Excel, mais souvent aussi c'est des fichiers en Word où on récupère les comptes rendus. Donc, pour le même site, une de field, une de site, on a beaucoup d'outils. Un fichier Excel pour le contrôle qualité des données de paludisme, un fichier Excel, on a Excel file pour la santé maternelle et infantile. Et les problèmes sont soulevés, c'est après tous ces éléments-là, où est-ce qu'on les met? Donc, il y a des problèmes d'archivage, de traçabilité, de suivi des recommandations. Et le gros problème également, c'est qu'on se retrouve avec plusieurs programmes qui viennent au même moment sur le site pour venir faire une supervision. Donc, un problème de coordination des activités. Donc, l'une des raisons pour lesquelles nous sommes engagés donc, dans ce processus de digitalisation, pour pouvoir vraiment apporter des solutions au niveau du pays. Alors, pour le faire, donc on est passé d'une première phase d'analyse de l'existant, C'est vrai qu'aujourd'hui, c'est marqué là, mais ça n'a pas été aussi facile. Ensuite, le développement des outils ou l'adaptation des outils, puisque déjà, il y avait déjà les outils proposés par HISP West Africa. On a testé également ces outils et ça, c'est les phases qui sont prévues. Il y a une formation et le déploiement effectif de ces outils. Donc, nous ne sommes qu'aux 3 premières phases qui sont marquées ici. Donc, après l'analyse de ces outils, on a retenu 2 checklists pour ce qui est des outils de la supervision. Parce qu'après avoir analysé tous les outils de supervision, on a réalisé qu'en réalité, il y a 2 qui pouvaient regrouper vraiment ces différents outils de supervision. Donc, on a procédé à l'harmonisation de ces outils. Et puis, on a vu que l'outil de contrôle qualité qui était proposé par l'OMS, adapté ou utilisé également par HISP West Africa, répondait vraiment à notre besoin. Et puis, donc, on a procédé à la phase d'harmonisation, ensuite d'adaptation de ces outils, et ces outils ont été donc mis dans une instance de test, pour procéder à la phase de test sur terrain. Donc, les 2 phases en jaune, hein, sont les phases donc, qui restent à mettre en place, la phase donc, de formation et puis la phase de déploiement après la phase pilote. Alors, que pouvons-nous retenir donc, de ce processus? C'est qu'il y a des aspects techniques qui ont été soulevés, justement liés à la multiplicité des outils. Il fallait vraiment s'accorder. Et puis, également, les besoins qui étaient exprimés souvent dépassaient les objectifs de la supervision. L'autre point également, c'est que ce manque d'harmonisation des outils, donc vraiment nous avons beaucoup posé des difficultés, mais finalement on a pu retenir donc 2 outils de supervision. Et l'autre point également au niveau opérationnel, c'est que on a recentré la supervision dans son sens propre du terme, c'est-à-dire les districts vont superviser les hôpitaux qui sont sous leur responsabilité et les régions vont superviser les districts donc, sous leur responsabilité. Le niveau central n'aura que le rôle donc, de coordination de ces entités. Alors, en conclusion, on peut dire que la digitalisation donc, de processus de supervision et de contrôle qualité, ça a été vraiment un réel c'est pour nous un objectif majeur pour vraiment renforcer le système d'information sanitaire. Et c'est l'une des raisons pour lesquelles vraiment nous sommes engagés afin vraiment d'apporter à notre pays une meilleure traçabilité de ces supervisions, une meilleure planification et également atteindre l'objectif qui est l'amélioration des services et de la performance. Tac.
Okay, so that's all of our presenters for this session. I know we're kind of a bit over time, but if there are any questions, we are happy to take them. It's optional for you to stay. There's some snacks and drinks outside, but any questions for any of our presenters? Not this time? Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm Yoshito from UNICEF. I just wondering, this data quality thing is always done after the data collection. Is it possible to implement similar checking during the data entry? So that before finishing data entry, they can, and they can see the flag of this like algorithm might be.
Thank you for that question. Maybe I'll take that on, at least partially. So, some of the features that we've been discussing are retroactive. You need the data in before you can check. But some of the tools, you are able to do during data entry. So for example, validation rules, for example, before you, or at the time you submit your data set, you would run those, and if anything is returned, we just didn't have an opportunity to show it, but it will flag those for you. And you can see which exact violations are present and fix those before you kind of finalize your data entry process. So it is a mix of kind of retroactive and proactive tools that are in there.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just gonna say, I mean, there are kind of two problems with this. One has been the actually having the min and max values present in the system to begin with. That's been a long outstanding problem to be able to generate the value, right? So we've been working very closely with the Ghana team to figure out ways to calculate those externally using statistical methods and import them in large quantities, basically, so that they're available. This has always been the case, that it was kind of the responsibility of the facilities to generate their own min-max values, right? But a lot of people don't know how to do this. I mean, you can kind of eyeball it, but if you've got thousands of data elements, many disaggregations, it becomes very troublesome to do that. Same with the validation rules, right? The big problem, and this comes down to training data entry staff, right, is that DHIS2 will not prevent you, and there's been a lot of philosophical debate about this over the years, but the way that DHIS2 is right now, and how I think it always will and should be, is that the system does not prevent you from entering bad data, okay? And a lot of people have asked for that feature, but we're not going to do it, basically, because it just doesn't work. Nora's shaking her head, and she can tell you a lot more about why it doesn't work, right? So this does come down a lot to training your users. That, you know, first as the administrator, being sure you have the validation rules set up, being sure that you have the min-max value set up, but then also training the users about why they need to pay attention to these errors and how to fix them. Because a lot of times you'll see this error like min-max value or validation rule, and they don't understand what to do, right? And they'll just press complete, and then you have to hire Nick to come to Ghana and fix it for you, right? But it can be fixed up front, but it does require some effort on the part of the administrators to get things set up wrong.
I want to take down color, but it's the same thing. What was so interesting about two presentations was the fact that they discovered this huge duplication of forms and discrepancies, and you couldn't use one and the other, and the confusion that this has created. And I think one of the values of the digitalization process is that you can start to reduce the numbers of duplicate and mismatched forms floating around. And when you have something that is standardized, it becomes easier.
See Kwame in the back. We have one.
Thank you very much. Just a quick comment. Yeah, a follow-up to the question you asked. You know, the RDQA is looking at two things. The first thing is, as we discussed, so you have some data keyed into a system, and you are trying to check to see if there were any violations. So then you can have the validation rules, the outlier analysis, and all that. Beyond that, you also want to check the figures as entered against what's in the source data. So in an ideal setting, you have registers, primary tools, which keep the transactional, data. And that is where the aggregates are collated from. So beyond just checking the accuracy, That's of the data as entered on the system. You also want to check consistency between what has been entered, the aggregates against the source. So in most of these activities, what you do is that you go back to the health facility, you go to the register, you take a count to see whether the figures you are getting are consistent with what has been reported. So the system can only solve one part because you have validation rules, you have min max. It will take care of the collated data that you are entering into, the DHIS2. But beyond that, you also want to see whether the figures are indeed what they are on the floor. So it's a very useful exercise. So you cannot fix it just by having validation rules on the system. You will still have to go there and check. So that's what I wanted to.
Thanks, comment. Any other questions or comments? Yes.
It's okay.
Okay, I'll go there and come back.
Hello, thank you very much for the presentation. I just have a question regarding the culture of data use. Because you can see today we're talking about the quality of the data, and for those who are technical people to actually look into how do you ensure that you have a higher quality of data. But what about of those who are healthcare professionals that have to type in this type of data, and the policy makers, for instance, when they're looking at their data? So this is just for all presenters. So maybe speak upon then what are some of the actions that you've taken in regards to the culture of data use for those who don't really grasp the technicality of the of data in general?
Yes, so thank you for the question. I think it's a general principle that where data is used, ultimately quality improves over time. And one of the objectives of what we are doing is to then begin to visualize the quality issues. Because what the concentration has always been is to visualize the performance, because everybody is looking for the performance. But we want at the end of the year to be able to tell program leaders, partners, that antenatal coverage of 95% is based on a data quality index of 75%. And that should be in context. And so we don't want to go traditional going forward, having just the coverage show up during performance reviews, but we want the data quality conversation to become part of the routine so that it is also discussed, so that things are placed in their proper context as we discuss the solution.
Does that help?
I'm just being a devil advocate here. That we talk a lot, here we are all the suppliers, we are providing technology, we're providing tools to address the data quality, assuming somebody's interested in it. I'm going to the other way around. How are we going to make sure that those who use the data believe in that and trust it? I think we all do, especially Ghana example, Cote d'Ivoire example. We all believe that somebody will look at that and then trying to say, oh, you're a bad guy, you're good guys. It's not about bad guys and good guys. It's about how we're going to bring the culture of data use to it. And I think this is something, so we are all supplying goods, but we haven't seen what are the markets out there. We need to find out what are the marketing tools. We need to look into that. How we make sure that the minister, the head of the departments, the program managers at regional level, at district level, actually use our data. But that is something that, we all assume that they are interested. Are they? I don't know, because this is one of the key things that we also question a lot when we develop the framework. And we look at it from, are the indicator really what they want? To, what are the existing tools and what else can be developed to detect the data entry phases? Because if we have to do the data quality reviews, it's already one step too late. And we are trying to fight the one who does the wrong practices, but we still haven't found, what can make this practice into something that's acceptable and being demanded by the user side. So that is something we can think about and we can discuss further in the next two sessions.
Yes, I'm just wondering if we have an experience big enough and a perspective to see how these tools are effectively used. What is the real impact on the data quality of in general? That's one question because as Anne actually presented, the data quality is a question in the whole cycle of the data. It's at each step that you need to actually think about the quality of the data, and there is this link between data use and data quality. And always I'm wondering what would be the most impactful actually intervention on data quality. Is it this energy, this investment on those tools? Are they effectively used? And can we see that the effectively impact the data quality in general?
Before I'll come back to that, if you also want to comment to that, and then we'll take both at the same time.
Thank you. Just wanted to complement something that Kwame just said, because sometimes we struggle in making the case for investing and HMIs in general. So your RDQ is looking at outlays that you have on your laptop. Is looking at the accuracy of data compared to what you have in primary sources, but also it's looking at the system that you have at the bottom level to collect your data. That's why it is important to go on the field, not just to sit at the desk and analyze your DHIS2. You need to make the case for the investors to say, we need to go to the field and meet people and see what are guidance that are there, are they trained, and so on and so forth, so that you can strengthen your data collection system.
Nice. I mean, that's something that with a moment. Yeah, no, I mean, it's a good and big question. I think what we're hoping sort of on the I think this toolkit is all quite new in terms of the impact on the DHIS sort of data within DHIS2. I think what we are hoping with some of these monitoring things in place is that it is easier to at least at some level sort of measure if you have interventions, whether things are improving in terms of actual sort of data quality errors in the system. I mean, I think that's at least a small step, measurable thing. I mean, that doesn't really change the whole data use culture and the demand for data, etc. But I mean, that's something we are hoping now with some of these monitoring tools in place, that we can actually see in Ghana, for example, if you can see the trends in outliers being entered, in validation rules being ignored, you're able to do, I mean, we're talking about this kind of training at the lower levels to see, does the training on data quality actually lead to fewer outliers, fewer validation rule violations, etc. So I think I'm hoping we, with some of these tools, are sort of taking some small steps in actually being able to measure if the data itself is improving a little bit. I think whether that sort of improves the data quality, data use in the whole health sort of sector, I think that's a bigger undertaking. But I hope this is sort of at least the first step with some measurable sort of metrics on whether things are actually improving.
And just to add real quickly here on what Yera and Aladi presented, that on the supervision tool, you are able to get, for example, values from DHIS2 directly. You take those down with you to the facility, it's stored on your phone. You will get values and you will be able to calculate an index score regarding the change as time progresses, both at the time you do the assessment as well as time goes on. So there are some advantages. They have very short time to present on this tool, but there are some metrics that are also produced from that as well that you can measure for time. So hopefully that some of these initiatives will help us better understand what's going on and how things are changing over time as well. Okay, so with that, I think I'm going to end the session since we're a bit over time. We're happy to take any other questions that you have. Stick around. Thank you very much for your time today. And another thanks to all of our presenters in the session. And please enjoy the snacks and the drinks that are outside along with the rest of the session. Thank you.